All right, hey everybody, this is John Stuart. It's been a while since I've been on here. Yeah, I'm back again after a long break that was not planned. Anyways, today we have some interesting stuff to talk about. We're going to be getting into OPEC and some stuff about oil and how that relates to Bitcoin, which it might not seem like it's related, but that's why we're here. We're going to explain that to you.
Well, it depends. It depends how you define related, because they're just, each one has a statistic and they're comparing the statistic, and we'll get into all that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that one affects the other, but they do both have the same statistic that can be compared. So
yeah, anyways, there's that. But before we get into the actual content, we want to give another plug for our Patreon. This is a great way to support the show. If you're a fan, if you want this show to keep happening, you could go on there. What's our URL?
So the easy link is meandbtc.com/feed us. Not like the dead unborn babies or whatever, or unborn,
dead
whatever.
Unborn.
Actually, I think I made it so that fetus works too, but still, the actual link,
of course you did,
is meandbtc.com/feed us, because we need food. So
we do, and Daniel needs to be more secure so he doesn't just rant about this stuff.
More secure? Why would I rant about this if I was insecure?
Because if more people gave you money, you wouldn't be making stuff about feed us and feed us.
True.
Just be
give me money, and then I'll be some more secure. That's pretty true. Well, you can get perks, too, so that's the other reason. Yeah, I know everyone wants to make me feel good, and I'm not going to shut that down. But yeah, there are perks, patron-only updates, and an after party. If we reach a certain goal, we'll do an ad-free, uncut after party. So yeah, all kinds of fun stuff. You can get a bumper sticker. So go and explore it. So that's at meandbtc.com/feed us if you want to check it out. But yeah, I want to get into this OPEC stuff. So one of you two tell me what the heck's going on. What does OPEC have to do with Bitcoin? Or at least tell me how it compares to Bitcoin. What's the news here?
Well, they're finding out now that OPEC, we found out before what it was called. It doesn't really matter. You know what OPEC does. They just control all the oil.
Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries.
Thank you, Daniel. What this article about, what the buzz about the comparing Bitcoin and oil is that for the past year, oil has been more volatile than Bitcoin has, as far as like if you were investing in it or you had money into it. It hasn't jumped around as much as oil has, which is big because, Bitcoin's been better than some tech companies for a while, but that's not that
Speaking
crazy.
Of tech companies, they have Twitter on this comparison chart too. The actual stat is, quote, standard deviation of daily percent price changes. And whatever that means, some mathematical term for volatility. And over the past year, they have Bitcoin sitting at 2.65%. They have oil just a hair over that at 2.69%. And then they also throw Twitter in here, which is way higher relatively at 3.82%. So there it is. That's what it is. They say that Bitcoin is less volatile than oil. All right, we got to get this out of the way. What's the correct way to say that word? Is it volatile? Is it volatile? Is it volatile? We have to get this out of the way. What is it?
I can tell you it's not volatile.
Volatile.
I would say volatile.
Okay, all right. I think that's about what I've been saying. Volatile or something? Yeah, I don't know. I know you guys will harass me for this for the next year about one word that I said, but whatever. Yeah, so tell me why this is important. A lot of people probably that are listening have been in Bitcoin for several years, and they know why volatility is important and why it's been kind of problematic for Bitcoin. But also some people listening might not know all of those details. So what is volatility? Like, why do Bitcoiners even care about volatility? One of you want to share about that?
Bitcoiners care about it because that's what everyone else complains about.
Exactly. That's exactly right. It's just been a problem. And everyone says it's bad. And it can be. It can cause financial damage to people and groups and investors. Yeah, of course. It's a real thing and a real negative for some people. But it's just a fact of life. I don't know. What do you think? Is it bad in and of itself? If something is volatile, if something has that quality,
I hate you.
If something has that quality, are you inclined to avoid it? I guess the answer is yes. What do you guys think?
It depends on what you're looking at and what you're looking for, because Bitcoin was volatile, and that was what got some people to go into it, because then it's like, well, you might get a lot of money, you might lose a lot.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And same thing with oil. I mean, this is a little bit different because also in this story they talk about OPEC possibly doing something to drive the price one way. But as far as something being volatile or not, you don't want something to be volatile if you're looking at it for like a currency. If you're mainly looking at it as a currency, it's better for it not to be jumping all around, because then someone makes a trade one day and the next day they've lost $50.
Yeah.
Because they didn't sell it enough. So if you're looking for a currency, it's better. If you're looking to make a quick buck, it's not as good. And I'd say probably if you're looking to store some value, it's better to look at something that's consistent, because then you don't have to see your stored value jumping all over the place.
Yeah. So first of all, you mentioned that some people just get into it because of the volatility, because you can make money on volatility just as much as you can lose it. And that's a good point. I didn't even think of that at first. But so just as much as you're going to argue that volatility is bad, we could also argue that it's good, because some people are going to lose money, yes, but some people are also going to kind of accidentally gain money because they just happen to buy on the right day and the price goes up. So that's a really good point, and I think it is a factor. So if you're going to argue that it's bad, which is fine, it is bad for some people, but you can't stop there, because for every bit of bad that there is, someone else gets lucky and makes money on it. So it's kind of a moot point when you get there, and the only thing you can do is look long term. Okay, fine, it goes up and down every day, and some people win and some people lose. But what does it do long term? That's the only way that you can get out of that moot point. And fortunately, Bitcoin, anyone that's been looking at it long term knows that it's been trending upward. And I don't think there's really any doubt about that. So I think that kind of gets us off the hook there. Would you guys agree?
Yeah.
That sounded kind of hesitant.
I mean, I guess. I guess it was hesitant. I'm just hesitant. Like, it's not that I have an actual argument against it or I have misgivings about it. I just am hesitant to say that it's true.
Wait, to say that what's true? That it's trending upward?
No, that gets us off the hook.
Oh, okay. All right. So
I mean, I guess you could also say about trending upward, because it could drop $200 tomorrow and then never recover. But
so you're saying that even if it is trending upward long term, there still are some, or at least you have a feeling that there still are some negative qualities to volatility? Is that what you're saying?
Not Well, kind of. I'm more just saying that I don't want to say that there aren't negative consequences.
Okay. All right.
I'm just guarding against the possibility that there's something I don't know.
So in classic YMB fashion, you never take a stand on anything. You have to be vague all the time so that you can always claim that you were right.
Exactly.
That's the best way to go. Then you sound like a moderate all the time. I'm a very balanced and composed person the way I think. And I don't think anyone could really know for anybody else. I think you should just make your own decision.
Well, I could see why you think that you're a balanced person, but it's possible that some people might disagree. So, it's
Daniel.
one way or the other.
I thought that was serious for like a couple seconds. Now I was like, no, this is too much.
Oh, geez. Well, actually, before we get into this OPEC stuff, which is funny, with not even comparing it to Bitcoin, it's kind of a funny and interesting discussion about how they control oil so much. So I want to get into that in a minute, but real quick, one more thing on volatility. I actually have this was not intended at all because we didn't come up with the volatility discussion until after this story that I was telling John just when we started talking. And it's actually kind of related. So I was telling him how someone that I work with got really into purse.io. And Jesus, if you haven't heard us talk about purse.io, then welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. But so you, me, and btc.com/purse if you want to check it out. Discounts on Amazon. But here's the story. My coworker got involved, and he's been buying a bunch of gift cards on Amazon at like a 25% discount. Now, here's how this is related to volatility. He got involved about a month or two ago. And that's why, just like I was saying, you can get lucky on volatility and you can get unlucky on volatility. He got lucky. If you've been following the price, you know that over the past month or two, it's gone up quite a bit. I don't have the chart in front of me, but I would guess about at least 10%, maybe like 20 or so. And so that's an instance where, he's like, it was the first time he ever bought Bitcoin simply to use it on Purse. And he's been buying it ever since to continue using it on Purse. And every time he's bought it, the price has gone up after he's bought it. So not only does he get a 25% discount on Purse or more, but he also gets the added value of the rising Bitcoin price. And I guess I just bring that up because that's an example where people can get into Bitcoin and start loving Bitcoin simply because the price moves in their favor. And but it could happen just as much in the other direction. He could buy today and it could crash, even if it, okay, so I'll pull out some real numbers. I'm looking at 776 right now, okay? And if he bought it today to continue spending money on Purse, then he could. And it could go down tomorrow by, say, 3, 4, or 5%. It could drop to like 720, 730. And he would take a pretty decent loss, but still, over the past month or two, it would have gone up. And that's where volatility comes in. It's really just luck, right? I mean, is there any other way to say it? You might buy it today, the price could go down tomorrow, and yet the price is still trending upwards without a question, especially over the past month or 2 or 3 or 10. And so, what do you guys think? Is it just luck? And does that make sense? I don't think there's much to argue with there, but what do you guys think? I think I am absolutely positively right, even though we never argue that on this show. We always have to be vague, but I might be right. If all you have to say is, that makes sense, that's you can say that.
I think that makes sense.
It kind of works, I guess.
No, I'll go with that.
All right, good. So I talked for like about 2 or 3 minutes straight there. So I'm going to turn it over to one of you two. What do you guys think of OPEC? Like, what even like do they do? Why is it okay? Is there any element of free market in there? I don't know all the details, so I don't know how much government is involved. But even if government, regardless, this could still be the exact kind of organization that people could make in the free market. Regardless of whether the government is involved in OPEC, people could still, anytime, any day, in a completely free market say, well, hey guys, you produce widgets and I produce widgets and these other guys produce widgets. What if we just cut supply and tried to spike prices?
That's true, but this is the organization of petroleum exporting countries, not companies.
Okay.
So, I don't know how it works because it's not, the countries aren't, like, the U.S. hasn't nationalized oil yet. I mean, some countries have, but not all countries who are involved with it.
Well, the U.S. hasn't nationalized it. They've, like, outlawed it.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a decent amount. Mostly ours is just shale, and then we just poison everybody's water and give them cancer.
Yeah, they don't outlaw it completely, but they regulate the crap out of it, that's for sure.
They do, but the company... We're still exporting stuff, though, now, like we used to not be.
Do we really?
But
we export oil?
Maybe not.
Why would we do that?
I'm just pulling stuff out of my ass right now.
We consume so much oil, it's not even funny. Why would we export it? I mean, I'm just pulling stuff out of my ass, too, but I can't imagine that I'm sure someone has taken a barrel of oil across the ocean, but I can't imagine that
they export a small volume to Canada, so it's not like, I don't think it's like they're exporting a surplus. They're just like giving some to Canada because it's cheaper or something.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. Just so everyone knows, all of the chart that we talked about with volatility and a lot of this stuff about OPEC is coming from a CryptoCoinsNews.com story. The headline is that Bitcoin is now a less volatile asset than oil as producers cut crude supply. And we already talked about volatility, but there is a bunch of stuff in here about how they're cutting the oil supply and how much. Mostly this story is taken from the Wall Street Journal. That's how these, low rate news organizations go. They just pick a story from a real one and rewrite it with quotes. So that's what we got here. But yeah, so the number is 558,000 barrels each day will be removed from the crude oil market. OPEC agreed to cutting 1.2 million barrels a day and cuts. Wait, what? I'm gonna pause for about 30 seconds and we'll cut it back in here because this sounds like two conflicting sentences. 1 sec.
Hi, have you heard about Bitcoin? Not Bitcoin, but Bipcoin. Bravo, India, Papa, Coin. Bipcoin is a new cryptocurrency that you can start mining today for free on ordinary computers. Unlike most altcoins, Bipcoin is not a clone of Bitcoin. Bipcoin is based on entirely new, more recent, and better code called CryptoNote. So unlike Bitcoin, Bipcoin has truly untraceable transactions, and we're working on adding distributed DNS functionality to Bipcoin. We're calling this .bip, and it will provide uncensorable domain names in an easy-to-use interface. Unlike previous systems attempting this, .bip will be simple for both a website owner and for people viewing websites. This will get at the worldwide adoption we need to keep speech free, and cyber squatting will not be a problem. Please help out with a donation or just share this with your friends. If you can't chip in some cash or Bitcoin to save free speech around the world, because there are incoming regimes that hate honest criticism. Go to bipcoin.org. Once again, that's Bravo, India, Papa, coin.org.
Yeah, okay, so to be honest, these sentences make no sense. They say that 558,000 barrels a day will be removed from the market. And then in the next sentence, they say that OPEC agreed already to cutting 1.2 million barrels a day in cuts already. This is terrible writing, all right? I don't necessarily have anything against CryptoCoinsNews. We've done plenty of stories from them before. but this one doesn't make quite sense. But the bottom line is,
Doesn't make quite sense.
that's why I write for CryptoCoinsNews. No, I don't actually, but I should. You guys want a writer? Contact me. Anyway, they're cutting supply. 2% is the percentage that they quote, and they don't contradict that. So maybe that one's right. But here's the funny part. Representing nearly a 2% cut, though expert analysts claim that gas prices won't skyrocket if done right. Now, I think this could easily be a core part of our discussion today. Just like I said, the price controls, the production controls. Like, how is this even happening? Like, why do they? It just seems so artificial. It's not even funny. Like, even for a government who claims that they can regulate things, even then, it seems so artificial and so flaky to just say, oh, all we have to do is cut production and prices will go up. Like, what? How do you even... Like, yeah, okay, even if, prices will go up, but you're also going to be selling less. And are you just going to hope that the prices will go up by 4% when you cut production by 2%? And even if that happens, how could anyone ever think that would sustain itself? That you could cut production by 2%, prices would go up by 4%, and then it would just stay that way. Like, that is so... It's just painful to even think of, right? I mean, that's what I think. Do you guys agree? Like, even for a government that believes in regulation, it is so backwards. Anyway, I'm ranting again. What do you think?
I think they probably have a little bit more... Well, I don't know, because of it being volatile now, but you always hear about them, like, governments having, like, extra legal involvements with how oil gets, and everyone blames the U.S. for, we just rescue every country that has oil in it. So, I mean...
No, we don't rescue them, we invade them.
No, we freedom them, Daniel. We blow them up with freedom.
We freedom.
Freedom invade. I like that. I mean, well, that's what we could call our next podcast, the Freedom Invasion.
Freedom Invasion. Submit to freedom. Welcome to be freedomized. Yeah, freedom. We freedom them. So I've kind of always just assumed that they had a decent control around it. Stuff like this happens. Maybe they don't have as much of a control as I thought, or maybe they just don't really, like, fuck with it until they have to. So I think... Like, I don't see any reason why the price wouldn't go up however much they think, as long as they shut down how much oil is getting put out, because people are still going to keep on using oil.
So are you saying, and this is actually something I was wondering before we started the show, and as much as I love freedom, and as much as I think this could never succeed in the long term, I was toying with the idea that They are succeeding, right? I mean, yeah, they're hurting the people, they're hurting the oil, the actual workers that are producing and drilling for oil, and they're hurting the people that are buying oil because they want prices to go up and everything, and they're messing with the market. But still, for themselves, this is kind of succeeding, right? I love freedom, I hate price controls, and I expect them to fail, but yet... I think you just said, Tim, that you do it. You think they're right. You think that they will cut supply and that the prices will go up just as much as they expect. And I think I agree too. So as much as I hate it, it's kind of succeeding. It's kind of working, right? Am I crazy for saying that?
Well, it's a monopoly that has multiple government force behind, so...
So it just has yet to be broken. And
yeah,
so, yes,
I mean,
it is a real monopoly, and it is working, just like all the... Because I guess the reason it's tough to say that it's working is because this is exactly why a bunch of people say that we need government. They say that we need government to prevent, manipulation and monopolies like this. And I don't think government is the answer, but I think they're right that this is working. Just like I said, they have so much power and they can do what they want, and they can manipulate the market. They can manipulate the prices in their favor. They will profit from it. And I do believe it's bad. I don't think government's the answer because they kind of are the government, like you already pointed out, Tim. But yeah, I interrupted you. Keep going.
Well, like you can say for a lot of different stuff, you can kind of make up something about how, well, I mean, as long as if it was free, it wouldn't be like this, because you can say in like an actual free market, you can go as far as just to say that we wouldn't subsidize the oil industry so much. But I mean, there is always this chance, because in general, we're pretty dependent on oil. We're starting to get other kinds of like renewable, they're looking at renewable stuff, but we're just getting other resources. But mostly people run on oil. So it's not like we're not forced to use gas. I mean, we could just bike everywhere, but we don't. So I think any commodity that has that much of a devotion to it, or that many people dependent on it, is going to look like a monopoly anyway. And the monopoly is probably going to succeed because it's a need at that point.
And it's backed by force. Okay.
But even if it wasn't, that's like, because I was saying you can pull that you can be like, well, if there wasn't any government, we'd have flying cars by now, so it doesn't matter. That's why. But even if it's not that, if we live in a completely free society and everyone still uses oil, whoever has the oil, if they're all like, yeah, we should probably get together and work together, they can do that.
I think I kind of agree with both of you, sort of. I don't know if you're even necessarily saying something different.
There's that classic committancy.
Well, I'm not even sure if you're saying anything different exactly, or if you disagree. But one thing that I was thinking is, well, Daniel, you mentioned that like you'd agree with people that stopping corruption and stuff like that is something that you think should happen. You just don't think government is the answer. Is that, I don't know if I'm saying it exactly how you said it, but is that the gist of what you meant?
Yeah. Like I would agree that people shouldn't have monopolies like this. But, Tim pointed out that even if the government wasn't involved, there are going to be people that control the oil, and people are pretty dependent on oil. So it's a tough question. Keep going.
Well, okay, so this is just something that I've kind of been thinking about for a while, and I hope it doesn't turn into something that makes this episode really off track and really long.
All right.
But, well, I mean, we've talked before about how things like Bitcoin are a form of regulation, and that regulation in itself is not necessarily bad. It's just the way that it happens in government is what we disagree with. And basically, I guess what I'm saying is, so you agree with the fact that this like should be regulated, but not by government, right?
Regulation.
I mean, I guess the word regulation is just like dirty, but that like
no. I would not agree.
You know what I mean, though, right?
No. I would not agree that people should. If I was an oil producer, and if I was not associated with OPEC, I would not cut supply to try to increase prices.
That's not necessarily what I mean.
That's what the regulation is in this scenario. The only regulation is, let's cut supply. And if it was a free market, I don't think anyone ever would cut supply. They would produce as much as they... they will if they can't easily produce more. Like, they're not just going to infinitely, okay, we got to produce more. We'll spend $10 million on this piece of equipment that can produce twice as much. Like, no, they're not going to they're going to reach their own equilibrium. And so, no, in that sense, there is no regulation. There is only a natural equilibrium. You can't just say, how about I cut prices and then prices... I said that backwards. So you can't just say, oh, how about I cut production and expect prices to go up? Like, no one's going to do that. They're going to produce as much as they can within their means, within their budget, and sell it for the as much as they can. I don't think anyone would cut production just to increase prices ever in the free market. At least not successfully. They might think they could, but that just counteracts the equilibrium. And yeah, it might work for a year, but no one with any sense should ever expect that to work permanently.
Okay.
Sorry,
right.
Yeah, I have no idea if that's related to what you were asking.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of thinking of taking this in a different direction, but like the more I'm listening to this, I think it kind of would just go off topic, so I'm not going to go there. But I think that cleared up more.
Okay.
For me.
Yeah, so regulation, like, yeah, of course, even in a free market, people are going to say, well, maybe I should do this and maybe I shouldn't do this. And yeah, that's regulation. I'm going to try to do what I think is good and profitable and helpful and whatever. Okay, that's a certain element of regulation. But in terms of intentionally counteracting the equilibrium of the market, that's what governments do. And I don't think that anyone in the free market would ever do that intentionally or would ever profit off of it permanently. So,
yeah, see, the one thing that does make this complicated, and I'm not saying that this is why they're deciding to make this regulation, but there is a difference when you're talking about something that could conceivably like run out in an enormous amount of time.
Okay.
So like the fact that oil is like not a renewable resource. And the fact that it has like other side effects, the production of it.
Okay, so you're saying that
I'm not trying. Well, this is more of just like me feeling out why would somebody in a free market come up with a similar idea to this, or why might somebody? Maybe
I can follow that with a scenario. So let's say I'm a country or even just a company, and I own 1,000 acres of land, and I have the mineral rights to that land. I guess I could see what you mean, where if it's a limited resource, then every increase in the price is permanent. Like, so if I increase the price from $100 to $150, like that, I have everything that's under my 1,000 acres is mine already. So my sole goal, like nobody else is going to take it, theoretically. I maybe I'll be able to mine it within my lifetime or drill it, whatever. So yeah, I guess I could see that where you know that you already have the oil. And it's the same cost to mine it, or drill it, whether you do it today or tomorrow or next year. So why not? It's already yours. So all you care about is increasing the price as much as possible and selling it at as high as you can until it runs out. I think I know what you mean. Where if it's limited and if it's already yours, you just have it's going to cost the same to drill it, whether you do it today or tomorrow or next year. Yeah. So why not try to increase the price as much as possible? Yeah, that throws a wrench in things.
That's half of the argument. And the other piece is that I guess you could relate it to how in farming you let land lie fallow. So like, I mean, everybody's trying. So let me go here.
All right.
Nobody thinks that we're going to be using oil forever. Everybody's trying to, or like, supposedly everybody wants to replace oil with something else, like completely in the future. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. the timelines will definitely vary. But yeah, I mean, sure, we're going to run out.
I'm not
That's
trying
fine.
to make any comments about the timeline, but
yeah, okay.
everybody's trying to replace it. So if we already have it in our heads that this oil isn't going to last forever, it's not even just about trying to make what you have make you the most money over the time that you have it to sell, but it's also
make it last longer.
Yeah, like for the actual use of it, not just in making money from it, but like if you're a farmer and you just like farm the crap out of your land, it gets ruined and you have to buy more land.
Yeah, it's crazy, but I think you're exactly right there, and that does throw a wrench in probably what I was trying to argue. But that does make completely sense. Like if you argued that there's 10 trillion barrels of oil in the earth, and that's all we're going to get within a reasonable time frame, without waiting for the next species to, without waiting for the dinosaurs to turn into oil again. Yeah, if you argue that there is a finite supply, like definitively, then yeah. And if you want to make it last as long as you can, then decreasing production and decreasing the mining of it, at the same time increasing the prices, which will probably decrease consumption, all of that put together means that it will last longer, and if the prices are higher, then by definition, you'll get more money. If there's 10 trillion barrels, no matter what, then every increase in the price, whether it's artificial or not, is still more profit for you. That's just the way it is. 10 trillion barrels, I could sell it for $100 or I could sell it for $200. I'm going to try to sell it for $200. That's the end of the story. So I don't know then, where does that put us? So if there were no governments involved with OPEC, if it was a free market kind of cooperative planning group, is it okay for them to just say, all right, then we're going to decrease production? That's just the way it is. Then I don't know.
I mean, it's like any other. If Microsoft wants to make less Xboxes, if everyone wants to make less 4K TVs, not that anyone's buying those yet, but
yeah,
I mean, they can. Most places don't really have any need to because someone else is going to do it. But again, I think it's just weird because it's the countries behind it.
Yeah, I agree with that to an extent that it makes it weird that the country's behind it. But maybe just to add like a more positive side of it, if this, like, let's just say that everything was left up to the market and some group of people who produce oil without forming a government decided to do this same thing, doesn't that just encourage people to come up with alternatives faster?
Exactly.
And ways to make it cheaper?
That's what I was just thinking that like 30 seconds ago. The free market response to even free market manipulation, the free market response to free market manipulation is faster and cheaper alternatives. I want someone to quote me on that. Put out a tweet and mention at you, me, and BTC. All right, here it is again. The free market response to even free market manipulation is faster and cheaper alternatives. Does that seem fair? Is that what you were saying, John?
In theory, yeah.
Okay. In theory, there he is, not committing again.
Yeah. This is one thing where I was going to go to earlier, and I don't want to get into because I feel like it could be a whole episode, but I guess I'm just going to, like, tease it a little bit.
Here's what we'll do. Just so that we don't get off topic, we are far enough along that we can finish pretty soon. So instead of going down this rabbit trail, we'll just let you get out some thoughts, and then we'll jump right to advice of the week and wrap up.
Yeah. I was going to say, and this is like pretty controversial, and I wouldn't even necessarily say that I agree with it. It's just something that I've been kind of toying around with the idea of, that in the market, people don't always arrive at the best conclusions. I feel like it's somewhere between the best conclusion and the easiest conclusion that like the actual conclusion is, or conclusion isn't like the best word. Maybe I should say like product or something. It seems like things arrive at like the average of the best product and the easiest product.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that just comes back to the equilibrium that I mentioned. I think that's the perfect word for all kinds of scenarios where you talk about markets and government. I mean...
Well, I guess what I was saying with that is that it doesn't necessarily lead to like faster and cheaper. It might be like easier.
Okay.
These are all just different adjectives that probably everybody defines differently or thinks about differently, but
yeah, so again, I don't know if I want to go down this rabbit trail, but Bitcoin itself could be an example there where everyone knows it's not perfect. Everyone knows, maybe the block size isn't great, maybe the encryption algorithm isn't great, maybe the mining reward isn't great. Everyone knows it's not perfect, but it is a very, very healthy alternative to it's equilibrium again. It's the control of government money versus complete freedom. All right, and yeah, sure, Bitcoin does not offer complete freedom. There are more anonymous cryptocurrencies, faster cryptocurrencies, whatever, but it seems to have hit that sweet spot where, yeah, okay, fine, it's not perfect, whatever. But it's easy, it's big, it's available, and so that's what the market has decided on for now. Is that a fair analogy?
Yeah. Actually, Bitcoin, I think, is like the perfect example of what I was talking about.
Okay.
There's plenty of things that you can complain about with it. It just happens to be kind of the midpoint between the ideal that people want and the reality of like what people are actually willing to invest the time and effort into.
There it is. So here we go. Advice of the week. Mine is all about equilibrium. And that's, for whatever reason, that's a word that's crossed my mind fairly often over the past few weeks and months. I think it's a good way to describe a lot of things. Whenever people are arguing about this or that in markets and government and rules and laws and money, a lot of times, if you think about it, equilibrium just kind of explains why things are the way they are. Yes, the government has a ton of power, and yes, they use it wrongly, but they still exist because they're just kind of at equilibrium with the people that support freedom and the people. Maybe that was a terrible example, but that's still my advice of the week. Equilibrium is a fun word. There it is. I have no idea what that example was, but I'm done. I'm done for now. Advice, guys. What do you got for us?
I don't know, man. Just come up with something better than oil.
All right.
So everybody get behind solar panels so that you use more silver so that my silver goes up. I don't know. My advice, try to get something besides oil. Run vegetable oil in your car. Convert it over to that so you don't have to pay as much money. So you don't have to give a shit about gas. Remove yourself from the system.
Yeah, exactly.
Buy male vitality.
Exactly.
Speaking of removing yourself from the system, this is another thing that I guess we'll have to save for another episode. But I was wondering, somewhere in the middle there of all that discussion, if this would totally be guessing about percentages and freedom and whatnot, but if you had to guess what percent free you are, this oil thing would throw a huge, I'm going to say throw a wrench into it again. I hate when people use the same phrase over and over, and I think I said that twice in this episode. But yeah, this whole oil thing, I feel pretty free. I do. I mean, I know I live in the United States. I know the government is after me. I hate driving because I'm always scared that anything could happen if a cop wants to mess with me. It's bad. Like, I really shouldn't, even as a libertarian, I should not be this concerned. But seriously, I get so stressed when I drive. But anyway, still, The idea that I wanted to think about, that maybe we'll get to in another episode, is just like, what % free are we? And if we recognize that a giant portion of the oil market is controlled by, whether they're government affiliated or not, they're controlled by little groups of people that are at least somewhat related to the government, how much does that make us less free? Because we are, just like Tim said earlier, we are all dependent on oil. There's no question about it. And so does that mean like, oh, well, I thought I was 80% free, but once I realized that oil prices are ripping me off and controlling the crap out of me, I guess I'm only 10% free. That actually seems like a possibility, where you think you're free and then you realize that oil is controlled and oil produces everything you use, and it's way more expensive than it should be and way more scarce than it should be. So no matter how much you thought you were free, maybe you're only 10% free. I don't know. It's a random, it would all be speculation about, how do you even come up with a percentage for freedom? It would all be speculation, but I think it would be a fun discussion. So maybe we'll get there someday. But
yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah. So we'll put it on the list. This has been the You, Me, and BTC podcast. We never introduced ourselves, but we will extraduce ourselves. I have been Daniel Brown, and I have been here with
Tim Baker
and John Stuart.
Thanks for listening, guys. All of our previous episodes, about 3 frickin' years worth, are available at youmeandbtc.com. Send us a tweet at youmeandbtc.com. Find more at facebook.com or twitter.com or youtube.com or patreon.com/youmeandbtc. Thanks for joining us. John's music is playing right now, so thanks for that too. Peace out, everyone.
Bye, guys.
See you.